Things First is sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve.
Man, oh man, welcome to First Things First. I'm Jen Wolf, this is Danny Cannell, and that, my friends,
what up, everybody?
Man on Earth.
PK, gentlemen, America virtual high five. How's it going?
My dad was so concerned with you all weekend. How's he going to be? Is he going to be okay? What's Monday going to be like?
You know what you should tell your dad?
He's going to be
Same
fine.
thing I told anyone that asked me how I was feeling. My team has Patrick bleeping Mahomes.
Yep.
I feel great.
Yep.
I feel great.
You know, I was worried. I was like, man, Nick's going to be insufferable the next 2 weeks. But after watching that video.
It only took 5 seconds.
No, it only took 5 seconds. But to see, like, a true fan, like, yes, you've been strong on your takes on Mahomes and the Chiefs, but to see the fandom come out, I think that's pretty cool.
Maybe.
So it's harder for me not to like that.
I didn't know if I'd ever be able to see that my whole life.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Really happy for you, Nick. All right, let's try
Niners,
how
by
it
the
all
way, also
happened.
made the Super Bowl.
I
promise.
Excuse me, this is how it happened. Chiefs hosting Tennessee in the AFC Championship game yesterday, and Patrick Mahomes continued to show why he just may be the best player in the world. Mahomes led the team with 53 yards rushing and a touchdown to go along with his nearly 300 passing yards and another 3 touchdowns through the air. Chiefs win 35-24, send the Titans packing. They advance to their first Super Bowl in 50 years. All right, Nick, I hope you caught the whole game. What was the key to Kansas City's win?
Once again, they find themselves down early, down 10-0, down 17-7. This time they stayed poised. They didn't have any major self-inflicted errors. It wasn't a bunch of drops. It wasn't a muffed punt. It is something where you're like, oh, this all could go wrong. They stayed calm, and they waited for Patrick Mahomes to take over. And Patrick Mahomes take over, he did. And you showed the play, Jenna, and we showed it for the first time a moment ago, and it is a play, and I do not say this because I'm a lifelong Kansas City fan. I say this because I watched it. That play will live on in NFL history. That is an all-time playoff moment by a guy who is proving himself to be an all-time playoff performer. And the other thing that play did, Danny, was not only give the Chiefs the lead going into the half, but I believe it was the final nail in scaring the Titans out of their game plan. In the second half, Derrick Henry carried the ball 3 times. They clearly were knocked out of what they wanted to do because they knew, all right, well, we can't cover guys if we don't double 1 or 2 people, but when we double 2 guys, he can do that to us. They are going to score at will repeatedly, and score at will they did. So when you have the best player in the league, you're in at an enormous advantage. Andy Reid once again called a brilliant game, and the Chiefs did not give the Titans the real hope. Oh, wait. This could be our day, because after the slow start, instead of a 51-7 run like last week, it was just a 35-7 run to put this game away.
There were some similarities to this in the Texans game as far as the slow start for the Chiefs. You had a couple drops, and then you look at the scoreboard. But I didn't feel anywhere, maybe it's because we saw what they did last week, I never felt like, man, we could see an upset today. It just felt, in large part, like, why does this happen? It's because of number 15. He is so special, and you combine him with the amount of talent that he has around him and Andy Reid, one of the better offensive minds in the history of the game, and that's why you never feel like you're out of a game. Patrick Mahomes has never lost a game by more than a touchdown. Think about that. He has always had his team within position to at least tie in the fourth quarter. And that is the biggest compliment you can pay a player, specifically a quarterback, is that with him in the huddle, you always feel your team has a chance going into the game, but also no matter what the score in the game is.
What does it say about the Chiefs? Not just Patrick Mahomes, also Andy Reid, who you brought up, because you don't want him to get lost in all this. Patrick Mahomes has been sensational. Andy Reid was there every step of the way. That they're in the Super Bowl after coming up just short last year.
Well, that is an organizational success. Brett Veach is the general manager of this team. They addressed the obvious needs on the defensive side of the ball as best they could. They made sure they retained Chris Jones. They went out and got got Honey Badger Tyrann Mathieu. They switch out Dee Ford and Justin Houston for Frank Clark. Frank Clark, by the way, who had multiple massive sacks in the Texans game. And then the play that you guys showed where I'm celebrating at the end, that was a Frank Clark sack to officially end the football game. And they did something that I think smart folks in the media have tried to encourage these teams that have sensational young quarterbacks to do. They went all in. They said, yes, we are going to have Patrick for the next 10. We will trade first-round picks for Frank Clark. We will make sure, even if Sammy Watt disaster against the Texans, they stayed poised, they stayed calm, and they stayed believing. As long as 15's out there, we can beat anybody. That's how they got where they were.
This game was so big for Andy Reid, though, and his legacy as a head coach. He's one of the most underrated coaches in NFL history, maybe. I think people look at Andy Reid and say, offensive mind, like I was just talking about, but can't win the big one, or clock mismanagement issues, which have plagued him in the past, which is really unfair, but sometimes that's what happens as a narrative, as a society. We just kind of label you as something, and then you're that. Now that he's getting to his second Super Bowl, I thought he was a Hall of Fame coach no matter what happened in the outcome of this game, but you have to start building up that resume. Now he's getting to his second, and if they do pull it off, then it's a lock, like as far as Andy Reid in the Hall of Fame.
And I'm going to add one other thing. One other person who I think he wasn't even active yesterday, but deserves immense credit, because the last 14 teams to make the Super Bowl had the bye. If the Chiefs finish 11-5, they do not get the bye. They went 2-1. With Matt Moore as the quarterback when Patrick went down. He went down early in that Denver game before it was decided. Then they had Green Bay and Minnesota, two playoff teams. They annihilated Denver. They beat Minnesota without their starting quarterback. They lose that game, the whole world's different. The Patriots lost in Week 17, doesn't matter. They still get the bye, and who the hell knows what happens. So Matt Moore and the team's ability, when they saw Patrick Mahomes potentially be carted off the field, to not fall apart and to stay afloat until he got back, it's one of the big reasons they're in the Super Bowl.
I love you're giving credit to the backup quarterback, but also, do you remember when there was video and rumors that maybe Patrick Mahomes was going to come back the week before? Having Matt Moore play as well as he did allowed them to say, you know what,
the game they won.
We can go one more.
They beat Minnesota because they had lost to Green Bay in a close game. And then was he going to come back from Minnesota? He didn't. They won the game anyway.
But Matt Moore and the decision to hold Patrick Mahomes out that extra week, again, goes towards Andy Reid and the job he did this year to keep that team healthy and ready.
The following week,
and where they are
lost
today.
to the Titans. They have
and then they
lost
haven't lost
since.
since. Yep. All right, time now. Put a grade on it, sponsored by CarMax. Nick Mahomes finished 23 of 35, 294 passing yards, 3 touchdowns to go along with an unbelievably impressive rushing touchdown that you mentioned. Put a grade on Mahomes Day.
He gets an A quadruple plus. Of course, I mean, it's such a perfect score. There's questions if he cheated on the test. But something just occurred to me, Danny. We spent that whole first segment. We didn't mention the alleged new king of the NFL, King Henry. I thought you could just pencil him in for $160.
He was king for
I thought he was just, obviously he's going to have 150 yards rushing.
A lot of show left today.
A quadruple plus Patrick Mahomes.
A plus with